our luncheon today. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Where did my flag go? You know what the flag looks like in your head. We're good. It's okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. You may be seated. Good afternoon. My name is Xavier Bailey. I am the president of Manatee, and I will be moderating the luncheon today. First of all, I would like to, do we have any veterans in the house today? Would you please stand so you can be recognized? Any veterans? Please give our veterans a round of applause. Thank you so much for your service. We appreciate you. Please make sure that your cell phones are silenced once we begin the program. I don't want to hear any of your ringtones. We appreciate it. So today we will be doing the State Representatives Candidate Forum. As you know, several of our participants are actually in Tallahassee, so they had two options. They had the option to do a pre-Zoom with me. The questions were not given to them ahead of time. They actually were given the questions just like I'll be giving the questions, and we will integrate them with the panelists that are here, or they could submit a letter. Representative Owens, actually, he's District 70 right now. He does not have an opponent, but he did submit a letter, and I will read this for the record. I'm honored to have been invited to the Tiger Bay Manatee. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of your May 28th program. Unfortunately, due to ongoing special sessions, I'm unable to attend. While I regret not being able to join in person, I remain fully engaged in my legislative responsibilities in Tallahassee during this important time. I value the work of this group and appreciate all you do to bring important issues and perspectives to the community. I look forward to the opportunity to join you at a future meeting when I can fully participate in the discussion. Thank you again for the invitation, and I hope you have a great program. And that was Michael Owens, representative for District 70, the incumbent. We do have Luther Keith Wilkins, who was also invited here today. He's the Democratic opponent that is challenging Michael Owens. He was not able to come. We received a message this morning that he would not be able to attend. So we do like to put those things on record because we do have a place for him here at the table. District 71 candidates, we have Melton Little and Varnadore. District 72 candidates, we have Representative William Connerly, and William Connerly will be doing the Zoom, and you will see that. And then we also have John Captain Phillips. We did invite Harvey Schifrin, who has now, I think he was in the school board race, and we had him here about a month ago, and now he's in District 72 race. But he said he had a prior engagement. So we're going to allow our candidates, they will introduce themselves. They have 1 minute to introduce themselves. They will also have a 1 minute closing at the end. Between questions, there's a 2-minute response. Since some of their candidates won't be here, they do have 2 minutes, and this is what they chose instead of having a longer intro. They have a 90-second rebuttal if anyone states their name or if they would like to correct something. I will acknowledge if I will allow that during the panel discussion. We will start first with our candidate, District 71 candidate Melton Little. You have 1 minute to introduce yourself.
I don't think I need the microphone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Need it for recording.
We need it for recording.
Okay.
Sorry.
I know most of you, some of you I've known a long time. I'm not going to tell you how long I've known Ms. Rhodes because she's 29 and I'm a lot older. Hope this works.
Button on the bottom. You had it.
Got it? Okay. I'm Melton Little. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a native of Manatee County. I was born in the old Manatee Memorial Hospital before it went to its new location. Grew up, came back sort of to Manatee and Bradenton, graduated from Bayshore High School sometime in the 70s. Went off to college, law school, came back. I've been working here in the city of Bradenton in Palmetto for 40 years. I've been working as a lawyer. I'm also a real estate agent. Some of you might not have known that with Wagner Realty. And I also own 49% of a plumbing company with my best friend from high school. He got the 51% because he crawls under the sinks. So I agreed to the 49. So I'm looking forward to talking to you all, hoping you have some good questions, and thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. You may go, Mr. Varnadore.
How y'all doing? My name is Jordan Varnadore, House 71, born and raised Manatee County. I think I was born in the new Manatee Memorial Hospital back in sometime in the 80s. Yeah, I've been a graduate of the Manatee County school systems, Palmetto Elementary all the way through Palmetto High School, went off to college, and came back. I had a few businesses while I was being insurance, mobile jumbotrons, do broadcast production for kids, which has really been an awesome thing to see them go on and get recruited and, be in the next facets of their lives, and it's just being involved in the community. I moonlight as a dueling pianist. I'm a rock star in my own mind, and my wife laughs at me every time I say that. So pretty comfortable on the microphone, but looking forward to hearing what we have to talk about today and discussing the issues.
Thank you so much. Mr. John Captain Phillips.
Hello everyone, Tiger Bay, thank you for having me. My name is John Captain Phillips. I'm recently retired Coast Guard Chief Warrant Officer of 31 and a half years. I'm running because I watched the county that I grew up in completely get overdeveloped and be sold out to developers, and just the way of life that I grew up in Pinellas County has just been, it's just been completely taken advantage of by the developers and the greedy special interests. I was 31 and a half years, like I said, in the Coast Guard. I moved back to Florida in 2012, and I decided that Manatee County was much closer to the Florida that I grew up in, and now what I'm seeing happen in Manatee County is the same thing that happened in Pinellas County. It's the same thing that's happening in Sarasota, and it's happening across the state now. So I was motivated to run for state representative because I think our power needs to be brought back to our local county commissioners, and they need a voice in Tallahassee to get that done, because the laws will be rewritten to take away home rule from our county commissioners, and it's just special interest. It's all backed by special interest. I'm not a politician. I'm obviously a grassroots guy. I didn't get in this because I'm the best speech giver or anything like that, but I truly care about the people of Manatee County, and I want to be the state representative because I want to bring power back to that word representative. I want to truly represent the people of Manatee County and their beliefs and what they stand up for and what they're trying to defend here, our way of life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we'll have Representative William Carnaby's introduction.
Very good.
That's okay, I can begin with the question.
Very good. I'm a fifth generation Floridian. I'm a veteran. I'm a civil engineer. Got about 30 years of practice, coming up on my 30th year of practice as a civil engineer. Was born in South Florida. I grew up in the Keys until I was a teenager, and then we moved to Arcadia. I consider Arcadia my home. In Arcadia, I grew up on a cow-calf ranch, and After graduating high school, I enlisted in the Navy. I served a little bit under 6 years active duty. After serving, I went to college at the University of Florida. I got my engineering degree from UF. Subsequent to graduating college, I began working. My background, my technical background is civil engineering. I've done educational facilities, healthcare, road projects, utilities, a lot of infrastructure type projects. In 2024, I was elected to the Florida House of Representatives. So I'm in my first term as a representative. My service has been an opportunity for an education. I realized that my skill set and my experience as being a civil engineer and understanding infrastructure has put me in a position where I can help not only our community, but the entire state of Florida.
Thank you so much. We'll start with the first question. This will be for all of the candidates. The voters in this state will have a chance to eliminate property taxes as a source of revenue to run the county government, excluding schools. Do you favor eliminating property taxes to run the county government? In every taxation scheme, there are winners and losers. Who are the losers and why do you say that? Who are the winners and why do you say that? What source of revenues should county and city governments use for coming shortfall in their revenues? It's supposed to be currently first. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. This is the first time you will start first, yeah.
It's irrelevant. What I think is appropriate is that we give the citizens the opportunity to voice their opinion. I had the opportunity to sit on the committee for property taxes, the select committee for property taxes, and it was an education. One of the things that caused me to do it is actually to print my tax bill out and look at it. The impact of what we're talking about isn't as significant as a lot of people would think. About half our taxes typically go to school-related activities. There's a portion, I think in Manatee, it's approximately, and it varies between different tax bills, but it's around 22% of the tax bill is what we're talking about. So this number is very close to what the CFO identified as waste, fraud, or abuse. I don't think there's any fraud or abuse. I think it's mainly the local governments have money and they're spending it instead of being more conservative. I think it's the mindset is if you have the money, you spend the money. So I think it's an opportunity for local governments to be more efficient and narrow the focuses. I've heard folks in certain communities say that they're happy to pay for extra services in other communities that people might be struggling. You know, if it's in South Florida, Wellington, for example, I know they tend to want to have the extras and be happy to pay for it. But in our community, I think we need to be more cost effective with regard to the services the government's providing.
He goes to answer the second part of the question.
In every scenario, like you said, there are winners and losers. The reality is that in our community, we had a significant migration into Manatee County post-COVID. And the escalation in cost associated with housing has shifted the burden to those who are moved here recently. I mean, that's a fact. The majority of the revenue that we have increased over this time frame is a result of new escalated prices in homes. So if you have moved here in the past 5 years, your burden is different than somebody who's lived here previously. There are only two components to a tax bill. It's the assessed value of the property and the millage rate. Both of those are manipulated to get a budget. And when you have a shifting increase, the revenue is going to go up. If you have a shifting assessed value, the revenue is going to go up even if the millage rate goes down.
Thank you. John, Captain Phillips, same question, please.
So the winners are politically, if I were going to run a campaign for a higher office and I said that I eliminated the property tax in my state, I think that would be a pretty significant win. That aside, I do believe that Florida residents are entitled to tax relief. And I think the current rate for the homeowners exemption is not significant at all. I believe $50,000. I had an idea or a plan that's very similar to the one that's just being presented that they'll be voting on. And I do agree with Representative Connerly that the people have the ultimate say on whether or not Florida residents should pay homeowners tax or not. Initially, I had a very high level of concern that this would be a blanket zero property tax up to whatever the highest exemption was, which I'm recently learned is $500,000. I think that's a reasonable number, but if we were to make that a blanket zero exemption, you're just going to open the floodgates again. And it also calls the question, why are we sitting on so many newly developed homes, vacant homes, brand new inventory? Well, did we know this was coming? Because, the builder needs something to sell and everybody wants to move to Florida to take advantage of that zero homeowners exemption. I do like the plan, the 5-year increment, and I think that we need to be sure that the money is there to cover those, cover the loss in revenue. I do also believe that there is enough abuse and wasteful spending going on in our government that if we were to tighten that up, it wouldn't be missed. So I hope I answered all the questions. It was like a multiple part question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Melton?
Well, I agree that it's something that the citizens should vote on. I'm worried that whenever government gives you something with one hand, they reach for something with the other. And that's my concern, is if we eliminate property tax, what are we putting ourselves in a position for taxes down the road? Are we looking at an increased sales tax, which I believe is a regressive tax based on your income levels? So that part concerns me. I don't feel like from a Manatee County standpoint, which is what I'm running to represent, that our county commission has been particularly wasteful. We seem to be able to continually maintain pretty good reserves in Manatee County, and that's even with using things like the children's services tax, which is around $9.5 million when I served on the board, to help fund our children's services. So I would be concerned about what tax is coming. As a real estate agent, I would like to see what I call the silver tsunami occur. I'd like to see some tax relief for when, if you're over 50 and you're going to sell your house, the person that comes in buys it at the same tax basis that you're paying, and when you go and buy a house, you buy their house at the same tax basis. So for example, if I was to sell my house is about $5,000 a year in taxes. The second I sell it and the new owner comes in, those taxes jump to $18,000 to $20,000 a year. I want to downsize and I want to go to a house half the size and they're paying $3,000 in taxes. The second I come in, my taxes get increased to $9,000 a year. So I can't even downsize out of a larger house and not pay less taxes when I get half the house. So from my perspective as a real estate agent, I think if we can do something like that, we create what's a silver tsunami, which is people like me that are a little older, and past 50, we can downsize, or we can go somewhere else and downsize, and then we're able to sell our houses easier to other people that are coming in. So ultimately, it'll be up to the citizens, but I would like to see something like a reduced tax that keeps your property basis the same. And then the last thing I'll say is making up the money. Glenn will tell you there's TIFs, there are tax incentive funding districts, and there's a Southwest TIF. And the way that's funded is the added ad valorem tax for every house that goes in there. So all that Greenbelt property that was Whitey Preston's that he sold, and all the Carlos Baruch properties, when they sold that property, the taxes went up. 50% of that went to the county, 50% of that went back, so into the TIF. So there are ways to fund it if that happens.
Thank you, Melton. Mr. Varnadore?
Yeah, so great points, and as conservative Republicans, we're all going to agree on a lot of things. But so let's look at the winners and losers first. On the winners of this, I see young people just starting their lives out or moving to Florida, maybe recent college graduates buying their first time home. I think about my kids in this situation, like, will they be able to afford to live in Florida if they go off and get an education? Right now, it's kind of a question mark. Seeing some relief for them would be a great thing. I also think about the people that have lived here their whole life. Being Florida First, it's about the people that have got existing retirement plans, be it whether it's a 401k, an IRA, a pension, or anything else. What is it that they can plan on to retire? So if you change the rules once you're in retirement to where taxes are going up, down, left, right, it's not a consistent. Once you're on a fixed cost base of living, that can be very hard to manage. So I think those are our winners from something like this. I think the losers are the municipalities and anybody dependent on the taxes themselves. So I know DeSantis released some kind of proposal last night which showed there would be protections for fire in school and police forces, but how much of that is guaranteed? We really need to dig into that further to be able to protect those services. I do think there is some waste at local and county governments. I think there is some trimming that can be done. So I think it's almost a hybrid plan of having some tax relief via property taxes, tightening the belt a little bit on some local services, but to protect fire, police, and the schools. But we just have to keep that monitored on that. Let's see. I think that's we've covered about that one simply. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Please keep the microphone.
Very good.
For District 71, Mr. Varnadore, what would you say your top priorities are for the state? And also tell us what functions of the state at the present that you think should be eliminated.
Okay, well, just on or off, or you're working the volume? All right, so I'm projecting like crazy, I apologize. So first off, we got to have home rule, all right? The state we've got to have a local control of what's going on in our homes. That's why we have city commissions, that's why we have county commissions, and so that we can get out there and we can vote on what the people here want. State representative to me is not a me job, it's a we job. It's where you go out there and you listen to the people, you go up there and you fight for them, you work with your city and county governments to go get appropriations for funding up in Tallahassee or get things passed that we want here in Manatee County. So latter part of the question, what things I don't like, so that would be like SB 180, that's got to go, all right? So things I do like, recently we saw the state come in and do some cool stuff. We had the cruise port thing out there in Terracea. That was an issue that was just, we don't want it. We kicked and screamed and we all came together, and it was a really cool thing to see the community not only communicate but unite, from bird watchers to fishermen to everything else. And then the state came through there, passed an amendment, and had the governor come down. I think it was in this room. No, it was at Pier 22, and sign that into where we're blocking that. So I see this. That is the function of the state. I'm a protect your unique Florida way of life kind of guy. I grew up in Manatee County. I love Manatee County. I want to see Manatee County set up for my kids to where it's the place that we all either grew up here or moved here for. It's a special place that we all love. So the state should be there to protect it and defend it. That is the rule.
Thank you so much. Melton? If you all need me to repeat a question, just let me know.
So I'm a believer that the government that governs the best is the government that's closest to the people. We're 67 counties in Florida. Every county is different. Every county has different needs. Every county has different issues. Some counties are landlocked. Some counties have rivers. Some counties have coastal areas. So a one-size-fits-all kind of rule, like SB 180, creates a real problem for particular counties, and in other counties, not so much. So it's an issue of one, being in the legislature and being able to address and carefully read each of those bills, because SB 180 and the parts that we don't like came through on a last-minute amendment. And I think that if the legislature knew exactly the impact of it, I don't think it would have passed. I mean, that's part of being, having an experience, working for 40 years in the community, is being able to reach out to call people if I have a question in the legislature. It's also being able to read legislation and understand it and have question marks go up if there's a last-minute amendment as to what it is. And it's also being able to understand how legislation is going to impact and affect people on the ground. As far as a Manatee County perspective, we need to buy a rattlesnake key. We were close to buying it before. The price was too high. They came back and said that they didn't want to pay the appraised price. Something in the back of my mind tells me the appraised price may be lower, and they might be more willing to sell it now that they can't dredge it. So we need to do that. Buying rattlesnake key gives us what I kind of consider a semicircle of protection. It gives us Robinson Preserve, it gives us Emerson Point, and it gives us rattlesnake key. So it kind of creates a buffer there for our bay so that we can keep keep that going. I did a video and said, you know, this is our way of life. The water here is who we are. My number one issue is the water. We have to clean our water. We have to clean it up. We have to fund it. We have to mandate it. We have to fix it. If you live on a navigable waterway, you should not be able to use any type of pesticide or fertilizer that's toxic. It should not run off into the water. There are some rules on that already, but we need to tighten those rules up, and we need to make some no exceptions on those particular rules.
It's red.
I got it, so. On to John.
Share the microphone. Captain Phillips, same question. Do you need me to repeat it for you?
Yeah, I thought Representative Connerly is going to answer this question, or no?
Yes, you're just first this time.
Perfect.
Tell us your top 2 priorities for the state for your particular district.
Well, in my district, I'm running against an incumbent who was on the planning commission for 12 years, and he was the chair of the board for at least 10 of those years. And many of the things that we're dealing with today, especially in regards to growth, my campaign slogan, slow the growth, are based on decisions that were made by those boards. So my number 1 priority will be focusing on representing the county at the state level. My opponent said, and I'll quote him, at the legislative level, it's rulemaking, so the rules apply to everyone. Well, that was his motivation for running for state representative, because he wanted to make rules that apply to everyone, but we also see who those rules are benefiting. I spent 31 and a half years in the Coast Guard abiding by rules. There's like 8,000 shalls and shall nots in the Coast Guard as far as the rules and regulations go, and then you have the UCMJ on top of it. The difference is those rules, they're designed to keep and maintain good order and discipline, and they are also meant to benefit the public that we serve. We're not rewriting special rules that only serve the special interests. We need to rewrite rules that defend the people's rights and protect our county and protect our natural resources. Second part of the question, please.
What would you eliminate? What type of functions at the state level would you eliminate?
I would eliminate special interests, lobbyists, and I would also like to see a cap on campaign contributions that were commensurate to the office that you're seeking. For example, if you're running for a state representative, the cap should be about $250,000 because that's what it costs to run one of these campaigns. If you're running for the next higher level office, you should have a cap there as well. We're never going to do away with the dark money, but if we limit it and level the playing field for grassroots candidates, it's possible for a grassroots candidate to collect that amount of contributions. The wider your range, the wider your net, the more options you have for collecting contributions. I'm not going to get a lot of contributions from outside of District 72. So that would be one means that I would like to see happen, eliminating the special interest money and putting a cap on it. I know that's not going to go over well with the voting, the majority.
That's fine. Thank you so much.
I've actually identified 3 priorities.
Okay.
And those priorities are housing affordability, infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, I'm talking about water, sewer, stormwater, and energy. Energy is something that I've had the opportunity to do a deep dive in and sponsor legislation on. And then the last one is water policy. And when I say water policy, this goes back to my area of expertise and my experience, which is stormwater modeling, flood mitigation, flood analysis, things like that. And I've tried to run legislation the past 2 years, and I couldn't get it to move in the House, the leadership. It wasn't a current priority. The reality is that we, as a state, are underestimating what a 100-year storm is. My engineering community, the folks I deal with, they've all agreed that we need to redefine what a 100-year storm is, and that's what I'm working on, legislation that would do that.
Nope. I'm going to the next question. Next question is for you, Melton. You ready?
Ready.
Total land area in Florida is about 34.7 million acres. Over 31% of this land is in some form of conservation, including federal, state, and local governments. Florida owns 3.8 to 5 million acres. Local governments have over 4.5 million acres, or 12.9%. The state holds over 10 million acres of total conservation lands, although that figure includes state-managed lands owners by others. How much of this land should we turn over to development?
Well, I think owning the conservation land is a big issue. You just heard me say I think we should buy Rattlesnake Key. I'm not really sure what the question is getting at, but from a development perspective, the thing that we've done or could have done a much better job with is we could have done a much better job with the infrastructure being in place before we allow the developments to be started. So building 7,000 homes on a 2-lane Moccasin Wallow Road, for example, doesn't work very well for any of the citizens in Manatee County. I've knocked on over 2,000 doors, and I can tell you the number one issue at the door is development and the roads, and what are we going to do to stop it, and how can we fix it, and what can we do to make it better. Green space is tremendously essential. I've had the opportunity to go to Savannah. I've had the opportunity when the World Cup came to go to Moscow, and I've talked about this with some of the builders that I know. Moscow, if you walk down the city streets of Moscow, you cannot walk more than a block and not find a park. In communist Russia, you might find a park that's made up of rubberized playground equipment, and then the next park you come to will be all grass and benches. But virtually every block has a park. So we can do a better job, I think, from a conservation standpoint of putting these parks into the plan when the developments come before the county commission or the boards. More green space equals, more opportunity for people to get out of their house, to get out into nature and do the things that we love in Florida, which is the weather, which is why all of us enjoy living here. So that's important. So continuing to conserve the land is important. It's a priority. I agree that our wastewater, and when I say water, I'm meaning a broad term, we have to have our wastewater in better shape. We have to figure out ways where we're not dumping treated sewage into the bay. We have to make sure we have capacity for all of those things. Those are all things that should be legislative priorities before they get to be legislative emergencies.
So this initial question, I said development, but it's developers and development. It's all the same as far as who's building up. Go ahead.
Again, I think there could be essentially one category. It's going to be infrastructure. We've had a tremendous increase in population in the area where the growth rate was in excess of the ability to keep up with infrastructure. So the reality is that everybody every day gets to experience one of those deficiencies, and that's traffic. If you're sitting in traffic, everybody gets to experience that. But in addition, we have other needs with regard to infrastructure, water, sewer, and the one that most people don't think about is becoming a topic currently with AI trending in not only in the state but across the country. It's power. Energy is something that we need to focus on. So those two things, the traffic and energy and fall under the same category of infrastructure. And then, of course, I mentioned stormwater resiliency.
Captain Phillips?
Repeat the question, because that answer I don't know that the answered the question, and I've kind of got thrown off the question now.
No, that's okay. Total land area in Florida is 34.7 million acres. Over 31% of this land is in some form of conservation, including federal, state, and local governments. Florida owns good?
Yeah. Well, essentially green spaces, and how much should we hang on to, and how much should we give up? Well, I don't want my grandchildren, the only place that they go to see native Florida wildlife is the zoo. That's not acceptable. And I think my opponent is of the mindset, if you build it, they will come. Because if there is no more development, and there is no more growth. So infrastructure, he keeps throwing that out there. In 2012, they did away with the Florida Growth Management Act, which dated back to 1985, and they introduced the Community Planning Act. Power in words. Community Planning Act replaced the Florida Growth Management Act. We need to bring the Growth Management Act back and we need to protect our green spaces at all costs. There's a certain natural rustic beauty of Florida. I used to work in Jacksonville and still lived here in Bradenton, and I drive through the country roads, and it's just amazing, but it's slowly disappearing. And again, if we don't protect it now, Florida's complete identity is changing. We've already lost the citrus, we're losing that agriculture, we're losing the beef industry. So many things are in jeopardy right now, and then we're going to talk about infrastructure. Well, let's stop the growth. Let's revitalize areas like District 4, where you have, it's already, there's no nature there, there's a few parks and so on, and nature finds a way, but let's revitalize those areas and make those livable instead of just mowing down trees, encroaching on the wetlands. 15-foot wetland buffer, that's unacceptable. 15 foot is meat at that table. You can build up to the wetlands 15 feet right now. Now the average has to be 25 feet, but still, let's increase our wetland buffers, let's protect natural Florida, and keep the state beautiful so that we can, keep alive the Florida tourism industry. And again, our children will grow up knowing what it is to be a Floridian and be in touch with nature. And you still have all this development in all these areas that are already established that you could revitalize. Let's focus on revitalization instead of new growth.
You may keep the microphone.
Okay.
Affordable housing and workforce housing is a big issue and continues to be an issue in the state of Florida. Assume that without the vote of the people who want affordable and workforce housing, you would never have been elected or be elected. How much money do you believe the state should take from taxpayers to assure there is enough housing for everyone in the state? And how would you finance it?
Okay, great question. I just kind of touched on affordable housing to some degree. I think revitalization is very important. We have a lot of areas where we could revitalize and improve the housing development and restore. I grew up a poor kid in New Jersey. I remember the HUD program. They would find houses that were in ill repair, and then it would incentivize the owner to repair them, even with funding and some incentives and some grants, and then they would offer those housing to as low affordable income housing. So there's an idea there. As far as where the money comes from, the other thing we need to look at is impact fees. The builders are getting away with bloody murder. They're not paying their fair share, and they're building these new homes and they're advertising them as affordable. It's a complete lie. The definition of affordable housing that they're using is just a farce. It doesn't truly mean affordable housing. It just means that, hey, a couple of the units that we're going to build here, if you give us this higher density bonus, are going to be at a reduced price. And it's just a numbers game. Essentially, let's try to revitalize some of these areas and bring up our neighborhoods. You got programs like In God's Backyard and things like that we could look at to really improve the affordable housing. I know that Live Local Florida was disguised as a way to elevate or increase affordable housing, but you have to look at these bills closely, and you have to see, and it seems like anytime Tallahassee or the special interests get their hands on a bill, they're going to try to pass it off as, hey, we're doing something for you, kind of like what Melton said. Anytime the government provides something, you've got to see what are they taking on the back end and what's in it for them. I think to have true affordable housing, you need to look at the areas where it's needed the most and see what you can do about improving those areas, not building up a new 4-story, 900-unit development on ag land and calling 10 of those units affordable.
Thank you. Jordan.
Yeah, so he just hit the nail on the absolute head at the end. It's building on the ag land. All right, so we continue to punish farmers over and over. But why are they selling their land? Why are they moving out and selling out to developers? Why are they giving up this wide open space? And I don't think I got a chance to answer the last question, but it kind of ties in. We want to see open green space. We want to see wide open spaces. We want to see that kind of stuff here. Stop punishing the farmers. Let's deregulate the farmers and let them have their farms and let them be good stewards of the land. And then that will stop and slow development, all right? If you don't want to see 500 acres right outside of Manatee County or inside Manatee County go up for sale, let's make it to where they can stay profitable. They're great stewards of land. These families are proud farmers. They want to stay there. They want to be there forever. They want to set it up for their kids and their generations, right? But if we push them out, it's almost hard to blame them. It's almost hard to blame them where, hey, you can't farm, you can't produce a product, we tax you out of the wazoo, and then now we're going to offer you $1 billion for your land, and you can turn it over to them. It is what it is. I also agree that there are areas, especially here within Manatee County, especially in my hometown of Palmetto, to where revitalization is absolutely critical to the cause. Okay, that's somewhere we can come in before we build new houses and new growth, and just because it's easier maybe sometimes to build something new than restore something old. It may be more cost effective to build something new than restore something old. But we have beautiful spaces, beautiful waterfront, beautiful communities here that are falling in. And that's where we need to put the focus first, is absolutely bring that kind of stuff back and then move on from there. Now, growth is inevitable. We know the population is growing. We know people want to, we live in an enigma of a place. People don't move here because there's a big industry or a job or whatever, because it's beautiful. And why they move here because of that. This is the Florida American dream, is to come here and live here. So we got to protect the beautiful and the American dream part about it, though. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
Thank you. Melton?
Well, there's no coincidence that almost all these questions are centered around growth, development, and affordability. I think those are the biggest issues that are facing Florida at the state level. So growth, we know it's coming. We can see it come. Those of us who've been here for years, I can tell you when I was in high school, they built Morton Village on 34th Street. That was the first building on 34th Street. There was nothing else on 34th Street from Morton Village all the way to the beach. Ms. Rose is nodding her head because she was there. So, there was, it was a seed store. Clark Seed Road was 53rd all the way to the beach. So all we have to do is think back a few short years and see how much it's changed in those years that we've been here. And the question that we're facing is, how much is it going to change for our children? Most of you know I have a 4-month-old. For our grandchildren, I have one of those that's 2 months old. So how much is it going to change for them? And what we do now is going to impact what they're seeing and doing 20 and 30 years from now, just the same that what prior boards and prior legislative sessions did 20 or 30 years ago is now impacting us. So we have to really look at these issues carefully. There's a balancing with affordable housing. 15-minute cities are great ideas. 15-minute cities where you build the city and everything you build, or you build housing and everything is accessible right in and around that area. That's supposed to reduce traffic, but the downside of that is you significantly increase density. So there's pros and cons to each side of the issue, and I think from a legislative perspective, I would like to be up there and have the opportunity to look at it, but then I also know people that I can call and ask questions to, that I trust to give me, correct answers. So I'm not relying solely on, whatever the culture is existing in the legislature at the moment. But there's no coincidence that these are all issues, and it's issues in every campaign, from the State House all the way down to the County Commission, and to some extent even the school board. So it's just something we're going to have to deal with, and how we deal with it carefully and efficiently now, and how we strike that balance between growth and affordability is really going to set Florida on a path that's going to cover the next 2 to 3 decades. So we need to be careful with that as we go forward.
Thank you.
I don't think we should turn over any land for development for any purposes. If there's a fiscal decision to sell property and that is valued at market rate, if some, you put it up for sale. If an agricultural entity wanted to buy the land, that would be appropriate. I can't think of a legal approach where you could say one entity, agriculture, could buy land, but another entity, if they were interested in doing some type of development, should not. But generally speaking, if it's land owned by a governmental entity, I don't think we should allow a transition of that land to an entity without significant analysis. The reality is that we're not getting more land in the state of Florida. The ability to conserve land, one of the approaches, instead of the government buying land, is to offer conservation easements. That's something that I think is more important than the actual purchase or transaction, fee simple transaction of properties. it allows the preservation of certain activities. For example, you may have agriculture running cows on it, but it would be preserved in perpetuity, and the family can continue to operate it as an agricultural operation.
Okay, so I'm going to go to the next question, I think go up 2 questions for Connerly, because I'm just going to skip that one. And we're going to go to the ethical question. Can you pull it down to 1 minute, please, for the responses? Thank you so much. Melton. This is long, so it's more the scenario than the question. Assume that after you are elected, that the governor, the president of the Senate, and the Speaker of the House are all of the same political party as you. Also assume that all 3 of those leaders want to place a constitutional amendment on the ballot, abolishing home rule in Florida. The Speaker is having a difficult time obtaining enough supporters for this amendment. The Speaker needs 60% vote in the House, and he is 1 vote short. You are opposed, as are the voters in your district. But the Speaker comes to you and says, you need to vote in favor, and if you do not vote in favor, you will never pass any legislation for your district. What would you do and why?
That's pretty simple. I wouldn't support it. You know, first and foremost, I'm a Christian. My faith defines me. So I do what I believe is right. I'm not seeking to go to Tallahassee to run for something else. I'm not seeking to be in the House for 6 or 8 years and then run for the Senate. I'll be 72 if I serve 8 years in the House. I'm going to come home and take my child and my grandchild to 2nd grade. So I'm not going to be trying to advance my political career. You know, speakers only serve 2-year terms. So I can ride that speaker out if I have to. But I'm not beholden to anyone. I'm not going up to the legislature. I'll be 65 next week. I'm not going up to the State House as a 65-year-old to have someone tell me what I need to do when I don't think it's the right thing to do. So I'm guided by my faith. I'm guided by my conscience. And in that particular scenario, if it's not good for the people of Manatee County, and it's not good for the state of Florida, I don't support it. Whether the issue is home rule, whether the issue is something that has to do with another conservative issue or a general issue, it's all going to be governed by my faith and what I believe is the correct thing to do for myself and from the people, given the people of the district's input.
Thank you, Melton. Captain Phillips.
This is a very simple answer. 31 years in the Coast Guard, like I said, I'm used to following orders, but these are not lawful orders. And as a commanding officer of multiple Coast Guard cutters, I always had the duty to look out for my crew's safety first and foremost. And how that transitions to a representative role, if the people elect me, I have a duty to the people. Very simple. The people put me there to vote for what they believe in. And I know full well my campaign motto and the amount of support and the common themes everybody's concerned is slowing the growth and, you know, restoring home rule. So I don't have a political agenda, or like Melton said, I don't know what I'll be doing 4 years from now, but I'm not worried about my political career. I'm worried about representing the people of Manatee County, so it's an easy no. And whatever they want to do to me, I've heard about, you know, they're going to put me in the basement and so on. If they've ever slept in non-rate burning on a 210-foot cutter, the basement is an upgrade. So hit me with your best shot. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.
That's good. No is the answer, of course. Getting to know Sam here a little bit on this campaign trail, I don't think he would ever put an ultimatum out there like that. But look, what you see is what you get with me. I know that's a political cliche, and it is what it is, but just look at my family's history here. They've been here forever. Heck, I bought the house that I grew up in, that my dad grew up in, my grandfather bought in 1962. I couldn't even get out of the same house. So this kind of like pressure to change or do whatever you need to do or be told or follow orders, it is not what it is. It's, for me, this is home, all right? I'm running not to see my name on the door or anything else. This is about we. I think there was just time to have a representative that looked after Manatee County, was formed by Manatee County, built by Manatee County, and I'm a pretty consistent guy. You know, I don't change my house, I don't change my parties, I don't change anything. I'm just me. So no, I'm going to absolutely be no on that one and just stick to what the people of Manatee County tell me that they want up there in Tallahassee.
Thank you. I am going to open it up for questions. If you would like to ask a question after this last question, this is only for the panelists that are here. And then if you have a question, Christy will come around with the microphone. Go ahead. I think we're on the right roll now.
Under your scenario, I wouldn't vote in favor of it, but I think...
Just answer the question.
To answer your question, I wouldn't vote in favor of it. But to be very clear, home rule is very important. And what happens when the state steps in for home rule is there are, one of the 400, I think there's 417 local governments. There's a bad actor who's overstepping some boundary. So the state tries to have a narrow correction. And if other municipalities, other than the bad actors, feel that they've been, had their rights, in air quotes, their rights, it's the state, to be very clear, the state grants all of the authority for home rule to the local governments. It's not something that's in the Constitution. It's something that the state has granted. And I've heard some folks say the state can give it to you and the state can take it back. It's very similar. Use the analogy of a teenager. You give a teenager a lot of freedom, and then when they overstep, what do? You kind of restrict that freedom. So that's the relationship, the best analogy of a relationship between a state and local governments.
This question is for the panelists in the room. The Byrd-Harris Act contains provisions that if the state wrongfully rejects a developer's application, that they must be compensated. When the county approves a development which lowers the property values in the area, do you believe the state legislation should clarify the Byrd-Harris Act to compensate existing homeowners in the area of development for the reduction in value of their property? In responding, remember that Florida has a constitution provision requiring full compensation to a property owner when his property is taken. Jordan?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I'm not fully up to speed on that particular act, but in principle, it sounds like a miserable idea. All right, so let's just talk like a person being from Palmetto. It sounds like if you're going to put in a development to where it's going to lower my property value, thanks but no thanks. Now, how do you get compensated back for that? Is it a tax credit, or what are they going to give you? And I would look out for the I gotchas there when they say things like, oh, we'll give you a tax credit over how many years and how many percentage and how much are you going to raise the cost of living and taxes and everything else on that during the medium. Is it a fixed cost? Is it a check? Can I go cash it and pay for food for my kids? It is what it is. So no, I would absolutely not be in favor of anything like that to where they can come in and just do as they please to where developers can lower the value of existing property owners here in Florida.
Melton?
Well, I think you have to draw a distinction. I think the question is a little bit shifting. So from an inverse condemnation standpoint, where the government takes your property, they have to compensate you. Incidentally, it's the only time you get 12 jurors in Florida other than the capital murder case. That's how important it is to compensate the homeowner for property that's taken from them by the state lawfully. And we usually see that as somewhere where they want to build a sidewalk, so they need to encroach so many feet on your property, those kinds of things. I don't think the act is designed to allow people to come in and reduce your property value by building a development that would bring the rest of the property down. That is just a horrible idea. And I have faith in our local officials for the most part, on our county commission and our planning commissions, that those kind of projects just don't get through. From a state level, I think that, again, that falls back to the home rule issue. So you have to realize that every county is different, and a project that might work really well in, Dade County doesn't work at all in Manatee. So we have to be very careful that we let the counties individually make those kind of decisions at the state level.
Thank you, Captain Phillips.
Yeah, I'm not too fully aware of any situation where development has brought down the local values or home values, but I do agree with what Melton said. What I would consider is, my opponent mentioned bad actors and narrow corrections from the state level to correct abuses of home rule. I think that the exact opposite is true. Home rule is not being abused at all. Developer rule is what's being abused. And that's where you're getting into these situations where you even need a Harrison Act. And then I also want to rebut the land development, because I know this is not really appropriate, but you're talking about giving up agricultural land and keeping it that way to protect it. Well, the company that he manages is largely involved, behind the scenes, albeit, in North River Ranch and Parish. And you saw acres and acres of agricultural land be handed over to developers under the branding of North River Ranch, which sounds a lot like Lakewood Ranch. So really, if you're gonna build new developments, let's be honest about it and what your reason for doing it is. It's not for affordable housing. It's so that you can increase profits and you can encroach on the wetlands and then just basically take away green flora. So I hope that answered the question to some degree, but that's my stance.
I saw what you just did. Do we have any questions in the room? Okay.
Hello. I think it's safe to say that elected officials across every level of government are in agreement, and across the political spectrum are in agreement that affordability is a real serious issue for our communities. Our community was just rocked yesterday and this morning with the news of 2 longtime establishments shuttering or facing severe financial hardship. I just would like to loop back to the property tax question and ask a couple of follow-ups. So it's a 2-part question. First, you mentioned that first responders are protected, but the governor's recent proposal suggests a state fund for that revenue gap at the municipal level. What are your thoughts on how that new process for funding that gap, that revenue gap that will be created, affects home rule? And then the second question is, you also noted that there were winners and that those winners were homeowners. How can you reassure landlords and commercial property owners that they will not end up bearing the weight of that revenue gap? And how do you think that will affect Florida's continued attraction of businesses and industry investors? How will mom and pop businesses be supported in carrying that weight?
Try to keep your responses to 90 seconds. I know, I apologize, but I won't cut you off. Who wants to go first? Is that for the entire panel?
Sure.
It's the gap in services.
Microphone, please.
How you're going to cover the gap in services, and what was the other part?
It's the gap, the revenue gap. The governor is proposing that there will be a fund for the first responders in schools that states will apply to. So that's the first question, is what are your thoughts on how that affects home rule? And then the second part of the question was, how will Florida maintain its current status as a attraction for new business and industry who will ultimately wind up bearing the weight of the property tax, period?
Our commercial businesses, property owners and landowners.
Okay, so those are great questions. I own a commercial building. I own the Palmetto Comm Center. So in addition to everything else I do, I'm also a commercial landlord, and my wife runs it and does a great job with it. But yes, we're always looking to see what happens with that. Obviously, you don't want to lay the tax burden on the backs of commercial buildings. We're in a capitalistic society, and government regulation and taxes are the enemies of capitalism. So we don't want that to happen. Funding the gap at a state level does not at all excite me. In fact, it scares me. It's not the process that we've used. When the sheriff comes in front of the Manatee County Commission with a list of his needs and requirements to keep us safe, those are our needs and requirements in Manatee County. Our needs and requirements in Manatee County are completely different than the needs and requirements in Osceola County, or different than the needs and requirements in Jacksonville. So again, it goes back almost to a home rule issue. We don't want to lose the right to fund our own services in our own county. The state's there to help us, not harm us. So I think that's going to be part of the sales problem that they're going to have getting this passed, if they're telling everybody, oh, don't worry, government's going to take care of you, Well, what are the worst words? I'm from the government, I'm here to help, right? I think that, we all need, I think it was Ronald Reagan that said that. I think we all need to be, cognizant of the Reagan era, and, the worst thing you can hear is, don't worry, I'm from the government, I'm here to help.
Thank you.
I have a problem with that. John?
And Melton mentioned it earlier about children's services. When he was on the board, it was $9 million. We fund 70 nonprofits from the millage, at $23 million now. So a lot of that comes from property taxes. Go ahead, Jordan.
All right, so the proposal's brand new, it's just coming out. They don't have this figured out. I'm just gonna be straight with you. Let's be honest, it sounds awesome politically to say property taxes are gonna be free. I'm gonna get, move on in my career, that sounds awesome, all right? Now you're having to figure it out. Putting anything, look, our city and our county can't agree on a budget or whatever. I talked to the sheriff, talked to some people in the fire district say, we're fully funded, we have an excess. You talk to the sheriff, like, we need more resources. If we've got this kind of, interplexing where we don't even know what kind of resources each department here in Manatee County truly needs, imagine applying that to a statewide level. Applying that to where one size fits all across all counties, whether it be a percentage or a fixed amount, it doesn't work. Talk about commercial, I've got a commercial building myself, absolutely not. You do not fix government budgets or regulations on the backs of small business owners, period. It's just not how you get things done. These are the people that sign the front of checks, these are the people that stimulate our economy, they're the ones that stimulate jobs and good growth as far as population and community growth. You do not, so that's not an avenue for them to recoup this kind of budget loss now.
Yeah, proposal you mentioned about applying for additional funds sounds a lot like the golden rule to me. He who has the gold makes the rules. And that falls back to that scenario where, the House, the chair, and everyone else is on the same party and they want you to vote a certain way. Well, you're representing a district and your district just applied for those funds. Guess what? You're in a precarious position now because the people are against whatever you're voting for, but you want those funds, right? So that's a very dangerous territory. I agree with both of the answers that were given here. Again, the law is not even ironed out. They're going to be sitting in session and going over pitching it to the people. I say put it in the hands of the people and present your best plan, let the people vote on it, and we'll see where we go from there. A lot of times we try to anticipate problems and we don't know what the problems are until they show up, like happened with SB 180. So let's look at their best, let's be optimistic about this. Let's let the legislators legislate and come up with a good plan and present it to the people, and we'll see where we go from there. And if they do create a problem, I've known for my problem solving skills in my Coast Guard career. So if the problem does present itself by the time I'm in the State House, I'll do my best to correct it. But begging for money and towing the party line to get what you need is not the way to do it. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but our friend Mr. Connolly. My name's Martin Hyde. Just specifically here, and it's a yes or no question, talking about local control being dependent on, quote, good behaviour, akin to disciplining a teenager, is somewhat arrogant. Would each of the panelists repeal live local subject to us behaving ourselves? Yes or no?
Just a yes or no, like he said.
No.
I don't know if Martin Hyde would ever behave himself,
I don't think so either.
but that's a no. I don't agree that we have unruly teenagers in positions that voters duly elected them into. So
That's right.
I don't agree with that sentiment.
It was an interesting choice of words, wasn't it? No, the answer is no.
All right. Go ahead.
I think the teenagers are in Tallahassee.
Hi, I'm Jamie Smith. Thank you all for being here and for being willing to serve. I don't think you get enough of that recognition. I am with the State College of Florida, so my big primary focus is education. And I can tell you just from my experience in government relations, you gentlemen are going to have to rob Peter to pay Paul, unless you know that money grows on trees somewhere, and then we're all going to want to know where you go. So when it comes to your priorities with all of the industries, whether it be healthcare, education, all of the sectors you're going to have to represent as our representatives, tell me how you would prioritize that, but most importantly, again, speaking on behalf of education, most people don't know how the legislation works and the education process. You yourself, as freshmen in the process, are going to be spending your first 6 months learning. How would you educate your local community about how it works and why you're making the choices you're making?
One minute.
Well, thank you for being in education. Thank you for being at USF. SCF, sorry. Right across the street from my house, by the way. That is obviously a learning curve. I've been asked the question, what committee do I want to serve on? I want to serve on health and education. I think it's important to reach out to the educators locally. My sister is a teacher at Southeast. She's retiring Friday with 45 years in the public high schools. So I think it's important to communicate with the teachers on the ground. I think it's important to communicate with your school board members, your SAC committees, and to find out what the local needs are, and then to get those local needs from a local level, whatever we can't fund on a local level, to encourage the state to set aside some dollars to fund those as well. So I think it's a great question. It's definitely a learning curve, I agree with you.
I think it's a great, honest question, okay? Because let's face it, when you're the freshman in the tower of no power, and you're up there and you're trying to figure things out, you just got to stick to your guns where it is. SCF holds a special place in my heart. My grandfather actually was one of the guys with the shovel in the ground, broke ground on MCC, and kept that college here in Manatee County. So SCF's always near and there to me. I think my mom just finished being a professor of piano performance over there. So love SCF. It's near and dear. As far as getting the educational dollars, that is one of the biggest things on my platform is education. So you're absolutely, and I love how you present the question. It's truthful. You're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. There's going to be parts of the agenda where you've got to be stronger or this or not, but whatever we can find to help education, especially localized education, where kids can get their start right here in Manatee County, perhaps maybe with SEF, it's great, there's 4-year programs, but if they even start there before going on and there's a local influx, I think the students are more likely to come back home and contribute to our society there, all right?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, excellent question, and great school, by the way. My daughter just graduated their nursery program, so I'm very proud of that. As far as learning things on the fly, again, I don't want to keep relating back to my Coast Guard experience, but that's what I'm offering here. 31 years of veteran service. As a commanding officer, you learn things on the fly all the time. You make decisions on the fly. You're also managing the safety of the crew and the budget and all these important factors. But the one thing that I have in my cabinet is, I didn't say cabinet, that's probably not the best choice of words, but one of the people that I'll rely on heavily when it comes to education is my wife, who I'm very proud of. 20 years in education. She started off as a teacher in Onico. She went as AP of Rogers Garden and then Horizons, and then back to Onico as the AP, and then she was the principal of a K-8 charter school, so I know a little bit about how they operate as well. And she's currently the principal of an elementary school in DeSoto County, where she brought them from first B in 13 years. They were a D prior to that. I hear and know a lot more about education than any husband or Coast Guardsman or most politicians would know. So I'll rely heavily on her for ground truthing these things. But robbing Peter to pay Paul, the Coast Guard has a motto of doing more with less, and I did that for 31 and a half years. It's not the right way to do business, but I think I can look at a balanced budget and see some fluff in there and trim it out. I don't necessarily call that robbing Peter to pay Paul.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I hate doing that.
Hi, I'm Liv Coleman. I'm a professor of political science at the University of Tampa. I live in Manatee County. Thanks for your responses today. Florida has one of the strictest abortion bans in the country at 6 weeks. There are many women who are not even aware if they're pregnant by that time. There was a constitutional amendment that was recently on the ballot. It didn't quite get the 60% threshold, but it got really high. What would be your vision for abortion policy in the state? Keep it where it is, make it even stricter, or allow for a bit more flexibility?
This is a very sensitive topic. I believe that this is going to the voters. It's gone to the voters once before, and the rules as they are what they are. I'm not a woman. It's not my decision. I would support whatever the people want. The majority of the people in Florida have voted for the current rules. I don't have any intention. This is not an issue that I'm running on. I would leave it to the people of Florida, and that's really all I can say.
Well, I'm pro-life. I heard my daughter's heartbeat at 6 weeks. It was one of the most moving things that I heard. We spent a lot of time having our child. So I would leave it where it is. I think that the exception to me would be the life of the mother. If the life of the mother was in danger, then I would support it. But other than the life of the mother, I am pro-life, and I would leave the law where it sits.
My personal belief, I'm pro-life. I have 4 small children. I can't imagine a day without them. Almost touches me just as I'm the same way. When we heard the heartbeat at the very beginning, I just believe that there's a life and a meaning for everyone else. I think the voters have talked on this. I think that's why the stipulations and the regulations are in place as they are. Again, though, what my personal belief is and what Jordan thinks is not necessarily what the people of Manatee County think. So my moral compass is what it is. I am pro-life. I think it's from conception there is life. I'm a Southern Baptist. I think it's a blessing from God himself. But if there's a 6-week there, that's what has made the voters, pretty happy compromise here. Again, I'm not a woman either. So I mean, there are circumstances with rape and incest and things like the early out of scenarios to where they just can't get it done. So sorry, I'm tripping up there, but the heart's on the kids. But no, pro-life all the way. That's my personal belief, but I think it's also still important to remember to listen to the people of Manatee County. Period.
For the record, Glenn Gadfly, Jiblinian candidate for District 4. So let's talk about the Byrd Harris and SB 180. Those are very restrictive. However, there are tools in the toolbox that our current commission can use as far as public safety, and I don't believe they are. So if you want to do a preemptive strike, you should do something like you have to have an evacuation route in place before you give a permit. If you look at the keys, they had a moratorium just on the evacuation route. So if they're not doing it here, maybe we need a state push in that direction. If you can do a statute of law, do it in that direction. Thank you.
I think that was a statement. Was that a statement, Glenn? That wasn't a question. Really quick, I want to get this question in from my panel because they sent this in. As state representative, what do you see your role in, if any, helping Manatee County identify, purchase, complete new boat ramps projects? I guess this would be working with the local government. More than 25,000 registered boaters in Manatee County who fight for parking spots nearly every weekend. That's important to someone, reps.
You want me to go? That's what we do. Parking spots through the yard. Boat ramps.
Boat ramps.
Let the Coast Guard guy take the credit.
Set it up for him.
Yeah. So,
Watch my timer though, Captain.
Oh, yeah, I got lots of timer.
Don't turn it back to him.
Can we start now?
Yes.
So obviously, Florida is a boating community, especially all the coastal communities. Large part of that's Manatee County, Manatee River. As we continue to develop, you're attracting more boaters. So it's a consideration that we need to keep in mind. I think we look at, and this is where maybe my naivety or newness politics may prevail or come in to question, is boater registrations, and not boater registrations, trailers and so on. You can look at options there, and you can look at the communities that they're serving. You can also look at the marinas and boating industry on a whole. So those are resources that you would use to possibly fund some of your improvements to your boat ramps. But we need to look closely at that. I know that's a huge concern, and as anybody who's ever tried to launch a boat in Manatee County, you got to get there early. So we're running out of space, and it's another argument against development.
Well, the question really comes down to, can we get money back to Manatee County from a state level to help with those types of things, with boat ramps and parking lots and parking spaces. And I think our current legislative delegation has done a great job with that over the years. We've seen people from Manatee County sit in positions as Speaker of the House. You're now seeing Jim Boyd as President of the Senate. Will Robinson was very high up in leadership in the House and did a great job for Manatee County and getting Manatee County its fair share out of the funds that were left over out of the budget at the end of the year. So my goal as a legislature, to answer the question, would be to try to get into a position where that I was able to impact enough other legislatures up there so that Manatee County would receive their fair share of the funding to do things like put our boat ramps in, increase our parking spaces, and those kinds of things. And that's one of the big reasons I'm running, is I think it's important that we keep Manatee County in the loop and not isolated from the rest of the state, and that we continue to receive benefits from our tax dollars that we pay coming back to us locally.
All right, so yeah, I'm a Pemmican guy. We got a boat ramp problem, so this one's near and dear to my heart. Please, local governments, get some kind of resolution passed on this. Come to the state, we'll find the money. All right, we know we need it, but again, this is not a state come in and do something for us. This is a state you help us thing. The local governments have got to figure out where they want to put the boat ramp, how they want to incorporate the parking, and what works best for them. I think, again, if you just come through with the mighty sword or the mighty saber and say this is the boat ramp that you wanted, this is how you're going to get it, I think that could be a little bit of a limiting factor. So,
Last question.
Yes, Deborah Chapman, Women's Resource Center, wanted to follow up on the earlier question and clarify something you might not be aware of. The majority of Manatee County residents did in fact vote for Amendment 4. So it was a 60% threshold required in Florida, which is very strict. It did not pass, but by a very close margin at 58. Sarasota and Manatee County were both in that 57-58 region. So not knowing that, because you both all referenced the majority of the citizen vote, the citizens were in favor of it. So would you change your answer to that question?
No, I wouldn't. My personal belief is my personal belief. I mean, if the citizens of the state of Florida vote and pass an amendment, then I live with the amendment that they pass. It was nice being neighbors with the Women's Resource Center for about 10 or 15 years. They go right next door to us on Manatee Avenue. But my answer would stay the same. I heard my child's heartbeat at 6 weeks. I'm pro-life, and my personal view would not change. If the state of Florida, the voters of the state of Florida pass an amendment, then I follow the rule of law. The rule of law is the rule of law, and that's what I would follow.
it's almost an identical answer for me. I'm pro-life. Again, that's a miracle of conception. It's a derived thing from God. That's the way I believe. I know there's situations that come up. So to answer your question, what I stand by, I mean, the law of the land is the law of the land. When the majority of Americans vote for something, they should get it. And that's the same with Florida. So if that is that, I can live with that, with my personal belief, and this is just me, okay? This is just me, but my personal belief is I'm absolutely pro-life from conception.
Okay, so we're going to roll this down because I want to make sure they're able to get their closings in. Thank you so much for your patience. We are wrapping up. They have a 1-minute closing and then we will be ending, but I truly appreciate you all being here with us and listening to our panelists. Go ahead, please. We'll start with Carly, then Captain Phillips, and then you can finish up with your closing, Captain Phillips.
Thank you. Just to summarize, my focus is going to be on infrastructure, water, sewer, roadways, and energy. Florida, right now, we're at 96% of our capacity on the grid, so we need to focus on energy for sure. The work I've done, I've already passed legislation that dealt with things like distributed waste treatment systems, which have an improvement on the nutrient loading. I continue to work on that stuff over the next years. I've already engaged in conversations with the incoming leadership related to the resiliency. I think it's going to be extremely important for Florida's future that we have a proper estimate of what a 100-year storm is. Right now, by my calculation and working with my partners in the engineering community, we're underestimating by 20% what a 100-year storm is. So if we focus on those things, we can make roadways, buildings, just any facility more resilient in the future to resist hurricanes. And we're in Florida, we know hurricanes are gonna come. So.
Captain Phillips, your closing?
I'm confused by my my opponent's answers. Many of them didn't seem to answer the question, and many of them seem contradictory to his performance the last 2 years. I'm a retired Coast Guard veteran, as I mentioned many times. I'm a resident in Manatee County. I care about the people of Manatee County. I want to be a representative. I don't work for an engineering firm. I'm not worth $2.5 million. And I don't benefit from the legislation that is being passed in state, and that's taking away Manatee County local rule and home rule. To fall back to the previous question, we could isolate different areas and we could say, you know, this precinct voted that way, this county voted that way. When something goes to a state referendum, it's the entire state and the people are voting. That's a lot different than the state legislation deciding what's good for your county and what's good for your district. That's where you got to isolate these things, you know, state law, local law. And I just hope that the people realize that the representative of your district, respective district, should be representing the people, not the special interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Melton Little?
This is our 1 minute clip.
Yes, it's your 1 minute.
Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching it on the live stream, if you're watching it on the live stream. I'm running for this race to continue to serve my community. I've been serving for 4 decades in my community. I think in this race, if I'm a voter, I'm looking at the education, the experience, and the empathy. I've been reading statutes and analyzing them for over 40 years. I've been helping write them on occasions. I'm good at reading the legislative and trying to figure out the legislative intent. And when I can't figure out the intent, I've been around long enough to call somebody here locally and ask them what this bill means and how it's going to affect you on the ground. So I have a lot of experience here in the community, a lot of experience in different areas of occupations, all the way from, you know, plumbing to landlord to lawyer to real estate agent. So I think that broad group, that broad base of experience would help me in Tallahassee. And then, you know, from an empathy standpoint, I've seen the issues we talked about with unwed mothers and issues that they faced, and there are ways that we can help from a state level to minimize the impact of that. And there are ways that we can help from a state level on other things. You know, Turning Points, run by Dr. Art Cohen, is a great example of the state stepping in with dollars to help locally. So I want to continue that type of action in the legislature. I want to continue that type of action as a Manatee County legislature. So feel free to ask me any questions. I'll be sticking around after, and I'll be happy to talk to you.
Thank you, Melton. Jordan?
Yes, thank you to Tiger Bay, thank you to Ms. Xavier, thank you all for coming out and listening to this panel. I want to thank both my colleagues here on the panel for just great answers and everything that they've come up with today. I'm Jordan Varnadore. I'm a multi-generational, you know, Manatee County guy, the time of the guy. So I'm not scared to speak my mind, I'm not scared of a microphone, and I think I've got an ability to communicate with people and to the masses. So I want to get up there and look, not bought and paid for. They can shoot me out, they can try to, they can do whatever they want. Never thought I'd be in politics, but here we are. I just think it's time to have a state representative from Manatee County that is about we and about representing us versus what I'm going to do, why I'm the best, and everything else. I want it to be Manatee County versus all y'all, and that's what I want to bring to Tallahassee.
Thank you so much to all of our panelists. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you to everyone who was patient and stayed throughout the luncheon today. Thanks to our panel again. The next meeting is June 25th. We'll have District 1 and District 2 County Commission debate. And thank you to Bezos. Also thank you to our board, Chris Nolan, station manager and crew at METV, ABC7 for coverage today. And we appreciate you. You may go home.
That's not my